Finds it funny. Ryan Leaf. Ryan, how are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
All right. I think we might have talked once or twice in your past, and I was going to host your radio show that you never even knew you were going to have.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where was that?
Based in Tampa.
Uh-huh.
I'm based in Tampa, and when you came to the Bucs, we sat down. I have done more Buccaneer player shows than anyone other than their network,
right?
Which was 620. And so we had this meeting. Ryan Leaf's coming to the Bucs. I go, that's who we got to have. This will be a good show. He's the quarterback. It's all this stuff. And then obviously, that didn't happen. I was like, do I go talk to Ryan? Do I go get this set up? Let's talk about first where you are now. Where you are in your life. Obviously, stories and everything about you are well documented.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like everybody else. I'm like any other 48-year-old dad, I think, trying to figure out how to raise your kids and be the best parent and partner you can be.
There's no playbook, is there?
No, there isn't. I think life, gives you a really good education on how to be a parent and how to do things differently. I think anything that you've how you've been taught, how you've seen it, and how you want to do it differently and stuff. So, yeah, just through that process right now, I'm going to be an old dad. I'll be 65 when my daughter graduates high school.
65 is the new 55.
I don't know. That's like her friends are going to be like, oh, it's so sweet your grandpa came to graduation.
65's not that old, is it? Come on.
No, it's not that old. It's old to be a dad of a graduate from high school,
right.
I think.
I get it. I'm 65, so you're talking, I'm like, oh, I don't know. Talk about when you were first coming into the league, you're drafted, and all the pressure that was put on you back then. There was that big thing, you, Peyton, you, what's going to happen, comparisons. And the other thing that I do want to talk about, and I don't want to forget, is that there's a lot of pressure put on all of you athletes at such a young age, being in front of the eyes, being, knowing how to handle media and all that kind of stuff. Can you talk about that back then?
Well, see, I didn't see it as pressure. I thought, everything that I had done up to that point was just win championships and do things that no one ever expected me to do. So, that was, I was going to be the first pick in the draft or second pick in the draft. Yeah, that's exactly how it's supposed to be. I'm going to go and be the starting quarterback right out the bat as a rookie, and we're going to win games. Yeah, that's how we did it. There was I didn't feel like there was pressure. Pressure comes when things don't go well. I think that's the way to put it. When things are going right, I don't feel like people feel pressure with that. Whether it's being placed on you or not is a different scenario. I can't necessarily speak to that. But when things start going poorly, how do you deal with it? And that's where pressure ramps up.
So it's kind of connected basically to your confidence. If things are going great, you're feeling on top of the world. And then maybe you start to be like, whatever, So you got to find that way to feel confident again.
Well, yeah, winning takes care of that a lot of times, but I also think that confidence was never something you can control, and I think that was also something that could be placed on you or not really. And the things that I could control, I was doing a very poor job of it when we started to hit rough patches. You can control three things. I feel like it's your attitude, your behavior, and your effort. Period. And so when your attitude sucks, the behavior usually follows, and then the effort isn't there.
That's good advice.
And so that's a big part of it. You can't control what someone says, thinks, does, or any of it. You control those three things, and at least you can look at yourself in the mirror every night and go, hey, I did everything I possibly could in the best possible way in a healthy manner to be the best, and we just weren't good enough today. Let's try to be better, tomorrow. And that's a hard thing to do as a human being.
Speaking of the best, Washington State, got a legend here in front of us. I want to know what you feel about the changes with college football and the demolishing of the Pac-10, Pac-12, and how are you going now? What are your feelings on that?
There's a sadness, that exists around the fact that it isn't the original, Pac-12. But what had happened, and it's sad because they just left Washington State and Oregon State to kind of fend for themselves. But as it turns out, they didn't leave them to defend for themselves. In fact, they left them with a absolute treasure chest of money that they thought they could just take with them, but they didn't understand that once you leave the conference, you are no longer a voting recipient on the board of the Pac-12 conference. And so there was never a moment after they got left behind that Washington State and Oregon State were ever considering playing for the back or going to the Big 12 or going to the ACC. They were the Pac-12. It is a brand. It is a well-respected brand, and they've built it back up. Teresa Gould has done a tremendous job as commissioner. I wish she would have been the commissioner over the last 5 years, that we wouldn't be in this situation, and she's replenished it. And I'm telling you right now, when this media rights deal comes up and it becomes public here in the next few weeks, the negotiations that she did, it will show you plain and simple that the Pac-12 brand is strong, and it's going to continue to be strong for wherever and whenever another realignment happens down the road. And so Washington State has a real chance every single year to be in the college football playoff, and that was not the case when they were in the Pac-12. And now, because of the everybody departing, they have a better chance now. In fact, Boise State, who's coming into the Pac-12 next year, they were just the recipient of a bye, actually, and in the college football playoff this year.
Thoughts on the playoffs and thoughts on NIL?
Okay, so those are probably a little bit biased because Wazoo and Oregon State got left behind, but I was then the lead analyst for the CW, so I called the Pac-12 games this year. So my real focus was Washington State and Oregon State. Those were the only games I called. I called a couple other college ones on the radio: Alabama, Georgia, Michigan, and Oregon. I'm telling you right now, I didn't follow the FBS much other than that. I did not watch one of the college football playoff games.
But do you like the playoff system?
I don't care.
Okay.
I thought it was a diminished product. I thought it was. I mean, I didn't care. I didn't care. I just know that it allows Washington State to have a better chance next, in 2026. So I guess so. The more teams that are available.
You think they need to widen the teams? Do you think you have a little bit more? You think it's okay how it is?
I think that the FCS has done it better than anybody for decades. They have a 16 team playoff. Mm-hmm. And I followed the FCS closer this year than anything. I called the national championship for the FCS, so I had to be up to speed with everything. But I think that blueprint works. It's been working forever. Why the Division I didn't go about that a long time ago, I don't know. I don't know. Once they figured out that this can make them more money, that's when they decided to keep doing it more. So I would suspect they'll probably go from 12 to 14 to 16 teams. I don't know if it gets to 32.
Speaking of making more money in college, now the kids are banking. How do you feel that's going to affect some of these players just because of their age, because of their inexperience in life, being 18? Once they get that money, is it going to diminish their ability to play? Are they going to still have that drive at that kind of age? Do you think there's going to be an effect?
Well, I know that the scouts and general managers in the NFL hope so. They hope that was an unquantifiable variable in the draft process. There was two I thought that you couldn't quantify: what life-changing money does to you, and what failure does to someone at the highest possible level. Mm. Those were just two things you could not quantify. And
especially at that age.
And now at any point, you've never done it before. You've never failed at the highest possible level and with the microscope on you, and you've never had life-changing money. Like, I bounced a check to Pizza Hut for $13 like a week before the draft. So there's just no money. You have no idea what it's going to do to you, and it changed me. Money changed me, and so I think it goes it's a credible benefit to GMs and scouts, because now one of those variables that they could not quantify, very easy to quantify. Guys are making life-changing money in college. You find out real quick, are they not showing up at the facility early in the morning? Are they not watching as much film?
Right, yeah.
And all those things. So they're going to have more information to make better choices in the draft because of that. As for college, that's exactly what college is for you to have these opportunities to make, good decisions and poor decisions. That's where learning experiences come from at that age, And so I'm all for them, being paid for what they do, because that's exactly what's been missing. They've been making too much money off the backs of guys that weren't being compensated for it. Now, listen, NIL is not NIL. It is pay for play, and it's the NCAA's reason why that happened. They had a organization in place. They had a committee in place. I know this because Rick George, who's the athletic director at Colorado, he was on the committee. And once the NCAA lost that judgment in court, they disbanded the committee and just said they want the Wild Wild West, they can have the Wild Wild West. And it's just been outrageous. I love the opportunity for any player to be able to go and do whatever they want, to make as much money as they want, but this isn't for name, image, and likeness. This is pay for play. And that is not what the intention was. So I think that's the bigger issue in all this, that the intention of NIL, stop calling it NIL. Just, call it a contract.
Right.
Yeah,
a contract
yeah.
to play football. Yeah. And that's what it is. And so that's the biggest thing for me. The two best quarterbacks in the country in the last 2 years, both are at Washington State, and they both ended up at Miami and now Oklahoma. So my school develops great quarterbacks clearly,
right.
but they can't keep them because they don't have the money to do so. And loyalty is not what it once was, because now when you just make a decision when you're 18 years old to be something the rest of your life, that isn't the case. You may be 6 different things by the time it's all said and done. And no one's going to look, bat an eye at that anymore.
That's a great point. I'd just like to reiterate that. That's really something people don't think about. And it comes down to defining yourself or having your identity lost in one thing. When you have your whole scope of life, and you being 48 now, you have many, many different identities with what you're doing. It doesn't make you're still who you are. It just changes.
Yeah, and one of the coolest things that I have going on for me is at 18, I decided to be a Cougar. And that's what I'll be the rest of my life. And that's pretty cool.
A cougar?
Washington State Cougar.
Yeah, Washington State.
No,
yeah.
I was making it, a cougar,
I said that on a podcast once that were with guys that had no idea about sports, and that they went that way.
Yeah, they went the cougar, yeah.
For an older woman that just likes this 48-year-old youngster.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, looking good.
Let's talk about Sunday. Give me your thoughts on Sunday. We've been kind of disagreeing on who the better team is. She says the better team is whoever wins, and she thinks it's Kansas City.
I mean, of course, you look. It's who's better that day.
That's what I said.
Well,
I think the
better. Well, I don't think they're a better team. I think they're a better roster.
Okay.
Up and down, player by player.
Kansas City?
The better, Philly.
Philly.
The better football team is Kansas City.
Thank you, Ryan.
All 11 guys together.
Okay.
And the coach and the GM, all of the things that play it out. They're just because in crunch time, there's no evidence. There's no evidence that you can bring to me that shows me in this type of game, that there's a team that can beat Kansas City.
Sure.
There's just no evidence. Until there's evidence, I can't argue with anybody on that.
Science by Ryan.
It's science.
Right
This is.
I'm 2-0 now, Randy. 2-0.
And so either the two ways this game's going to have to go is for Philly to win, it's going to have to be a blowout. It's going to be 31-10 for Philly to win, and for Kansas City to win, it's going to be a one possession game, which they've done all year long, which is what they've done in every Super Bowl the last 2 years for the third consecutive. And so Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are the best operators in end-of-the-game scenarios than any combo that there's ever lived. As good as anybody was in 2 minutes, but for all the things, the 4 minute, when they have to close out a game with the first down like they did last week, doesn't matter. So I got Kansas City 31-28.
I'm surprised the spread isn't more, to be quite honest. -1 I don't think is enough.
I thought it was a pick'em. Actually, I thought it was going to be a pick'em.
Yeah.
I got an alternate spread at 9.5 for Eagles, a three leg parlay. That's like plus 325. It's cashing, everybody. You want it? Everybody want it? So plus 325 for this 3 leg parlay. Over 48.5 total. You got Jalen Hurts anytime touchdown, and then an alternate spread line of Eagles plus 9.5.
Interesting.
Yep. That's a plus 325, I believe.
When does, in your opinion, it's already been brought up, Patrick Mahomes, GOAT, soon to be GOAT, on the verge of GOAT. Where in the GOAT, and I hate that, because how do you compare an athlete today of...
You don't. There's eras. Right. So I compartmentalize them into eras. And if there was any crossover from the last era to now, it was when Tom Brady beat his butt in for the AFC Championship and then the Super Bowl.
Yep.
So he's got that era. But right now, wherever that line of demarcation is, if it's from 2023 2003 to 2033 is that era. Right now, Patrick Mahomes is the go to that era right now. Now, does that change? Does Andy Reid couldn't win the big one until he won the big one? Does Josh Allen get over the top? Does Joe Burrow? Does Lamar Jackson in the next 5 years? And all of a sudden, now you look at that era, and you have a era in which Patrick Mahomes won 3 Super Bowls in a row. But at the end of that 10-year era, you had Joe Burrow. He won 3 out of 4 Super Bowls at the end there. So I mean, you can't do anything that until it's at the end, and then you cut it up into the eras of what it was. Terry Bradshaw for me in the 70s was the greatest quarterback that ever lived.
He's overlooked a lot. People don't talk about Terry Bradshaw enough.
He's my hero. That's who I grew up wanting to be. So.
Yeah. And they don't talk about Dan Marino enough. I don't even have a Super Bowl, but he was an unbelievable. He held all the major records at the same time. Until Brady, they were piecemealed out, to different people. People forget about that.
When you watch all these quarterbacks, what are you looking at? What are you looking for?
It's hard to look at this day and age of quarterbacks because everything is so unorthodox in how they throw the football. I was just at the Senior Bowl speaking to all the players on Friday night, and then I was out in warm-ups on Saturday for the game, throwing and tossing the ball around with Jackson Dart and stuff like that. All his warm-up stuff is throwing is, he's stepping and he's, it's just all arm angle stuff because that's what they see. So what I grew up seeing, was tight in the pocket, John Elway over the top, Dan Marino quick release. That's all that it was about. This day and age, this is what they watch, but they have to work out that way, and I think no one really saw it until you saw Patrick Mahomes in the documentary Quarterback on Netflix. That he goes to his alternate site to work out, and they work out on different platforms, on the throws and everything like that. That's why in the game it just happens. These guys aren't just talented like that. You just don't do that because it's a foreign thing. You have to be good at it and get better. So it's hard for me to watch him and go, because it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. What does make sense to me is the schemes, the offense, like watching and breaking down defenses and knowing and how you can beat that. That's what I look and see how quarterbacks look at that. Josh Allen had a really great opportunity on 4th and 5. He got fooled, and he slid the protection away from where the blitz was actually going to come from, and it really cost him because he had to get rid of the ball and do something unbelievable. He found a way to do it. It just got dropped, and then they lose the game once again.
That's
so
tragic.
And immediately he knew he was wrong because 20, who was mugging the line of scrimmage, I mean, he did not believe he was coming. He was mugging the right guard, but he still did not believe he was coming because he moved the protection to the left. And then as soon as he snapped, I bet you the ball was halfway back to him, and 20 started coming. And immediately in his head, he knew. He's like, I'm wrong. I was wrong. So now he's just got to go. I got to figure out how to make a play. As soon as he catches it, you can see him. He just has to bolt. Somehow he finds the only guy that's open, and then he puts it there, and Dalton drops it, and it's just the teams that win championships are the ones that make the plays, and the ones that don't.
Can you watch a game as a fan? I mean, it sounds like you're focused, you're breaking things down. So can you get away from that hat?
Yeah, the analyst
and watch as a fan?
I don't watch it as a fan.
Okay.
I can't.
Even Pittsburgh?
I try, but I just get frustrated with that, and then I just stop. So for me, I don't watch it as a fan. Like I'm invested in the art of it, and I watch the back and forth, and I think from an analytical standpoint now, and I like it that way. Like I'm not emotionally invested in it.
When did that happen? When did you change from the fan to?
When I think I started doing a lot of the the analyst work. I think in particular when I got the Good Morning Football gig, when I was doing that show is in every facility in the NFL in the mornings. So when the guys come into work, it's on pretty much everywhere, in the locker rooms, in the weight room, and everywhere.
It's in our media rooms.
And so I'm up there, and the biggest compliment I ever got from guys, I think Baker Mayfield told me it once. He was just like, "Bro, man, you advocate for the player. You are not hot taking stuff that are like, guy should have thrown it here. Does the analytics show this, that, and the?" I'm like, you just, and that's what everybody sees, and that's where I know I have to be just like, where I come from is as the player, how I would have seen it, and I'm not critical of the player in a negative way. I might be critical of the decision they made, And that's what great analysts are, I think. I think Joe Buck and in particular Troy Aikman do a tremendous job with that. I think Greg Olson is awesome at it, and those are the kind of guys that Brock Heward at the college level, tremendous. And those are the guys I try to pattern my analyst work after, and it's served me well, and that's the way I've been received because of it, and so there's no emotionality to it.
Final question for you, and we've talked to a lot of players today, and I'm sure we will over the next 3 days as well. How can the NFL make the transition from a player, to the next stage of life, make it better for you athletes?
Yeah, they still got a long way to go with that. A lot of times it's just, don't let the door hit you on the way out. So I'm not gonna wait for them to be responsible. We as former players are responsible for one another, so we're going to take the reins on that one. And mainly a lot of the work I've been doing, I've partnered with the Menninger Clinic down in Houston, which is a state-of-the-art psychiatric and substance use disorder facility. They've partnered with the NFLPA, which is our union. And if the NFL will let me get near their current or former players, that facility, every time I go down, has anywhere from 8 to 12 guys that are there, former players, and I'll have just like real hands-on opportunity to work with my peers and my brothers to make sure that that no one feels like Vincent Jackson did, dying alone in a hotel room, and Junior Seau, who was my teammate and who would be an incredible mentor to so many, thought it would be better for him not to be here than to tell people he was struggling, and so that can't be the case. And the NFL knows about it, and they just choose not to do something. And until you get the right person in charge there, which I think is the guy that is right below Roger Goodell, Troy Vincent at the time, I don't think much is going to change on that side of things.
So what needs to be done? I mean, I knew Vincent. I covered him, with the Bucks every day. Obviously shocking, Junior Seau, obviously we all know that. What can we do, whether it's media, whether it's fans, whether it's just other humans, in this country?
I mean, you cannot be, persuaded by the propaganda that the NFL throws in front of you. When Damar Hamlin died on the field, the front office in Park Avenue told everybody they're going to play. You're playing. You're going on. And then for days and weeks, and it's almost died out. Like everybody's like, they said that they weren't going to go play. No, if both those coaches didn't walk across the field and go look at each other in the eyes and go, I can't have my players play out, they don't know if their teammate just died. That doesn't happen. They go on and play.
That's great.
It's just the next thing.
Right.
And I called for it the next day. I was like, you don't play games this weekend. There are teams and players, because I remember how I physically reacted to it. My wife and I were in bed watching the game, and all of a sudden the back of my neck, we see it happen, the back of my neck is hot, it's sweaty, she's crying. And how many other people had that reaction? How many people were able to go check in? How many other people were able to maybe see therapists and do the things they need to? So I was like, don't play games this week. Use the bye week in between the Super Bowl and the championship weekend to make up for it. Take this week off, and then all the games will be the following week. And the feedback I got from the NFL was just, stop being critical of us. And so I think media needs to be critical of them. That's hard. They're Teflon. But also just have the acceptance that they're not going to do anything, and for you guys to be the answer. And that's what we've done as former players. I think that we're responsible for one another, and we need to be responsible for one another. And we're not going to allow that not to be the case anymore, because thinking that they're going to do something that they eventually don't do.
Awesome. Ryan, thank you very much for your time. It's a shame that we didn't get to do that radio show in Tampa. I'd love to get you on again at some point.
Well, I think it took the right amount of time for us to get on the airs together. That probably wasn't the best time. I probably wasn't very articulate back then.
Well, this was outstanding.
And how can people, keep up to press with what you're doing right now?
I'm on social media at Ryan D. Leaf everywhere. DM's open. If anybody's struggling, needs to tell somebody, needs some help or anything like that. And I travel around the country and I speak and do it a lot. So if I'm ever in your town or in your city, come say hi.
There you go, Ryan Leaf.
Thanks, guys.
Take a quick break. This is Knockout Radio, brought to you by 8 Man Strong, Staff Zone, and Bucked Up Energy Drink.